Hey guys, how you doing? Just give me a second to make sure everything's kind of working, and we'll go from there. Oh, looks like we got audio. Hey guys, how you doing? Just give me a second to make sure everything's kind of working. We'll go from it might even be, might even be streaming. Okay, that's always there. We go. This always one of the big challenges with this one is you can go down volume. Everything is just not working for me today. It never fails. Whenever you go live, that's when stuff just stops, right? Well, that's okay. So how y'all doing? It's been a while since I did a Facebook Live. I've got the comments. Yeah, I've got the comments over here, so we are good. And it seems to be, I'm seeing it like you're seeing it. So I think it's working. Wow. Don't touch anything. Don't touch anything. For those of you that are streaming with your phone and things like that, good for you. There's a lot of flexibility and advantages having. I don't know if you want to call it more sophisticated setup, and but the more pieces you add, the more things there are to go haywire, and it's. We're at the mercy. I'm using Ethernet cable, so right there on the floor. So we're at the mercy. I'm at the mercy of that cable, and actually not the cable, but internet. And Shaw does better than others at times. But anyway, just checking in. How you all doing? If you happen to stop by, and especially when we're live, if you could shout out a comment. I can see how many people are viewing, but I don't really see any indicators of who's viewing. So if you wanted to just put a shout out in the comments, that would be really cool. Also, we've got I'm starting actually today. I don't know which ones. I'll just kind of wait and see what Source has in mind. But, I didn't put my other backdrop up. That's okay. You'll see it in the other videos. I got one that goes right there. It's really kind of cool. Starting to do some of the $7.77 mini workshops. And so I'm actually starting to record some of those today. So, yeah, if you've got any questions or wonderings or frustrations that you have, shout about just kind of managing your life experience or manifesting desires and things like that, or really anything in this genre. You can shoot me a note or shoot me a comment here, and we'll see what we can do, because there's just so many directions you can go. It's kind of interesting as I'm watching this. I'm watching at the same time the monitor because I'm waiting for it to stutter or something like that. I think it's working. Son of a gun. Anyway. Yeah, be sure to put in my comments. In setting this up and not just I guess you'd say reformatting the curriculum, but in many respects, tearing it apart and rebuilding it again for delivery in this medium. And of course, the Reiki certification, the curriculum is a curriculum and that type of stuff. And of course, also, as you guys know, we sort of add a few things to it. The packaging, the content is everything. Content is king. Excuse me. The packaging is really important as well, and how you deliver it. And that's one of the things that, from all the data that's coming out of really this we're coming up to a year now of people, education, socializing, connecting online, there's a couple of things that are coming out. One of the things is it's a new term, just like Zoom. Zoom is a new term in our common vernacular, but they call it Zoom fatigue. And from the data, at least that I've read, about an hour. And about an hour, then it's fatigue. It's like your system is actually fatigue, which is one of the interesting aspects and aspects to maneuver in doing this. Is one of the reasons is fatigue is because we're community creatures. We're designed to live and to have our community. One of my buzzwords is community with a capital C, right? We're designed to connect in a real world situation. And in so many respects, we haven't been allowed to do it. We're allowed to touch, right? That human contact, that connection is a part of who we are. And in so many aspects of our life experience, we haven't been allowed to do that. And there's an energy that comes from that. And you guys have experienced that. I mean, the energy can go both ways, but there's an energy that comes from that. And I think one of the things that can get lost in a virtual aspect like this is that isn't. I'm looking at pixels on a screen. You're probably watching this on your phone. Now, one of the benefits we have is we understand that when you're working in this genre, and I think it's freezing up, isn't that neat how that happens, but we'll see what happens. When we're working in this genre, is that we're not limited by time and or space. And so we can't, yes, of course, the in-person contact is huge, but at the same time, we can connect with each other over time and space and actually feel that connection. And of course, that's one of the big advantages folks like us have that are, where am I at? Over here, living on the other side have, is we understand and we know that we can connect with each other in a very real way. But that's not the topic for this. In doing that, I've studied a lot of things and I've followed a lot of YouTube folks and things like that. And I was watching one just the other day about taking this experience and giving it, it's almost like, I don't want to say upscaling it is the right word, but what they're finding is that while just the single headshot and all this kind of stuff and the scene really doesn't change and that type of thing is one of the things that actually contributes to the fatigue because the person is looking at the same thing. And so that's one of the areas, and I like doing this stuff anyway, that's one of the areas that by adding in, well, let's see. So adding in here, we'll just kind of play around. So adding in things like, okay, so this camera is going to be all out of whack because I have not color balanced it or anything for this, but So the wide camera, now I realize this is, well, it's not bad, all things considering. So you got two cameras, so you can kind of bounce around. You change the shot up a little bit. Then if I if I screw up, it's like, oh, right, we screw up. So we've got that. We've got little footer things across the bottom and all sorts of cool things like that. The title, of course, you've seen the titles and things. I think this is a title for, I don't know what this one is. Let's try this. Yeah, that's the one for practical spirituality. We've got, what else do we have? Oh, Mr. Flipchart. If when we go to Mr. Flipchart, he's not here today, but when we go to Mr. Flipchart, here's Mr. Flipchart. Right? Oh, and your homework, you've seen the homework one. There's homework. There you go. See, all that kind of cool stuff. So that type of thing, what do I have here? Oh, that's just a little picture. But adding those type of things, it really helps reduce the fatigue. So that's kind of the two cool things about it. But that still isn't the topic for this. So I was watching this one video and they were talking about like adding that cinematic feel to this experience. And they were talking about shadows, which was kind of cool. And they were talking about lighting. And they were saying, so there's different, of course, many different kinds of lighting, but there's the one kind where it basically, there's no shadows. So they call it flat. So it's like flat lighting. So there's no shadows at all. And that has its purposes. What they were saying is when you add shadows, that gives the image depth. And this is the piece that I thought was kind of cool. And there's my monitor over there, so I'm just kind of checking, and it seems to be not bad. When you add shadows, you add depth to the image. And that phrase, shadows add depth, kind of stuck in my head. And then Source started doing its thing. And that's the topic of this broadcast. Is that I almost hesitated to use the word shadow selves because it's, of course, been used over and over and over. And like many of these things, used, misused, abused, all that kind of stuff. Like 3D. When 3D was all hot, you could get 3D toothpaste. Like, what the hell's 3D toothpaste, right? So our shadows, those days when we're dragging our butt across the carpet, those days when we've got our, I like to say, we've got our ugly stick out and we're whacking ourselves over the head with it and things like that. Those type of things, those times in our experience, so often we look at those as almost bad, if you want to use that word. It's like, especially many of you, like myself, so you've been on this path for a while, you've got some experience under your belt, you've got some momentum going on, and then you have a day where you hit a tree, right? And it's like, wow, I should be doing better in this, I should know this better, I should on and on and on and on, and then you get your ugly stick out and whack yourself over the head with it. And understanding that those experiences are what provide depth to who you are and what you can offer others around you. Because if your whole life experience was the lighting that they call flat lighting, which is no shadows, and it flattens the image, there isn't that depth. And it's the depth of our experience. It's the depths of who we are. It's the shadows that in many respects make us who we are, and that's not a bad thing. And, not that there's, we make mistakes, we make all that kind of stuff, right, and things like that. But I think at the same time, we don't want to vilify them too much, because maybe in respect is what we do with those, right? What we do with the shadows. Because the shadows in our life experience are what give us depth, and I think also help us to resonate and to relate to the people around us. Because if we're just this flat celluloid, smiling image all the time, it really does feel very surfacey. I don't know if you guys have known people like this, but I remember one couple, and they were always like, hey, yeah, it's all good, yeah. And even if it wasn't, it's all good. And I tell you, they were so saccharine sweet, it makes you want to, right, whatever you would talk to them. And we live in a real world, and the whole thing, the living spiritually in a practical world, doesn't just sound cool, it really is true. Because yes, there's that spiritual aspect of ourselves, and then we still need to be able to communicate in the practical world, if you want to call it that. And to understand that our shadow selves are okay. Or is there work that we do? Is there wounds to be healed? All that type of stuff. Rough edges to be polished off. Of course, there's always going to be that. But I think sometimes we vilify it more than we maybe should. Because our shadows, and what I'm hearing Source saying now, throat chakra, hear that? What I'm hearing Source saying now is that what we do with our shadows is what we do with that shadow self. It's what you do with those days when you're dragging your butt across the carpet and you're going, oh God, right? Or those days where you go, why did what was it? Which color? The blue pill? Like, why didn't I take the blue pill, for you Matrix followers and things like that, right? Why didn't I get a haircut and get a real job and things like that? To understand that our shadows, those days, those experiences, the dark night of the soul, you hear all sorts of different phrases for that. And in many ways, and what we do with them makes us who we are. And often, Esther Hicks, who I follow a lot, I think many of you guys are familiar with her, probably follow her as well. She says, uses the term our higher self, always is looking forward. It's not where we've been. It's where are we going? Okay, so here's where we're at. Where are we going to? That's our higher self. I call it source. Really doesn't matter what the label is always looking forward. Are there things we need to clean up, around us and from our past? Sure. But we do that, wounds that needs to be healed, on and on and on. We do that, but we do that as we're moving towards where we want to go. And I think what happens is we can get stuck in that shadow work and healing our shadows and all that kind of stuff so much that we forget that the whole reason we're doing this is because we're going somewhere. But we forget that we're going somewhere because we're too busy fixing shit. And what I find is that often a friend of mine, Rick Martin, he's the first one I heard say it. He used the term wound worshipers, and it's almost like we're finding the next thing to fix, and we're finding the next thing to fix, and we're finding the next thing to fix, the next shadow to be healed, and all that kind of stuff. That we forget that the whole reason we're on this earth is to go places, is to journey, is to expand, is to grow and evolve, and that requires us to go that way. Right? In the process of going that way, sure, there's stuff we're going to clean out, but the way I see it is decide where you want to go, start walking towards it, or it actually comes to you, topic for another video. Start walking towards it, and then whatever you need to clean up in any given day will come find you. But if you're having one of those days or those moments where it's like, oh God, oh, I'm such a waste or whatever, well, the first thing to do is cut yourself a hell of a lot of slack. Because nobody said, and I think, although actually that's not true, some teachers say that if you do this, whatever it is, then in life will always be roses and sunshine. And it's not always that way. Theoretically, I suppose, but practically, right, living spiritually in a practical world, not so much. And so when you have those times, cut yourself a whole lot of slack. And it's almost like make friends with the shadows. Right? Because they give you depth. And they make you interesting. Right? So many, this flat, so flat lighting, flat. What is there? There's no substance. But it's those shadows that give you substance. It's those shadows that give you depth. And it's what you do with them. Now, the other piece is those days when you're wind beneath your wings. Is celebrate, and this is part of our manifesting process. And step 4, which is inspired actions, and one of the pieces in that is celebrate your victories and that there are no small victories. And so when things are riding high and you're having a great day, you celebrate the hell out of everything. Every little thing is a victory, and there are no small victories. So what happens is we have this victory, and we go, so our goal is here, and we have this manifestation that's here. And we go, okay, well, I mean, that's great, but it's like nowhere near what I really want. And so in a way, we're devaluing the victory. And what's interesting is this process, we call it the creative flow, is scalable. So if I often use the example of gravity. So here's my phone. So if I took my phone and let go, it's going to fall. If I went up to the roof of the house and jumped off, I'm going to fall. Now, gravity doesn't say, well, making the phone fall, that's pretty easy. But making Russ fall, he's like 225 pounds. That's going to take a lot more work. Gravity doesn't see that at all. It's scalable. So it just is. And so when we celebrate those, what we see as small victories, I think we don't realize the gold that's in that, because what we're doing when we celebrate those victories is we're saying, look, gravity works. I held my phone up, I let go, and it fell. That's an example of gravity works. And I know if it works for my phone, it'll work for me, right? And so those what we see as tiny victories, celebrate the heck out of them. Because what you are doing is you are acknowledging, you are celebrating the fact that, yes, this process does work. Not even so much what is manifested, but you're celebrating that the process works. That's a very important clarification. You're not celebrating this. You're celebrating the process that you're interacting with that produced this. And that's really important. You're celebrating the process. this does a whole variety of things. The first thing, it helps to create more of that. And then the second thing, when you have the days when you're dragging your butt across the carpet, you can use that momentum to help you move through those phases a whole lot more efficiently. Because when you're having those days when you got your ugly stick out and you're whacking yourself over the head, you can remember the days, oh, wait a minute. And believe me, it's easier said than done. Wait a minute, I had this victory and this victory and this victory and this victory. And sometimes that'll shift your energy just like that. And you go from dragging your butt to wind beneath your wings again. And even if it doesn't, oh, hey, Nancy, how you doing? I don't know how well it's streaming, but it seems to be not bad. So we're going with it. The journey is often more important than the destination, for sure. Absolutely. There's a time lag. Sometimes it's like 20 seconds. So if you post something and I respond like 30 seconds later, that's why. I'm just seeing it here. And understanding that everything is a process. Very well put. Everything is a process. I posted a video, I think it was yesterday, and what did I call it? The one bad habit we all need to correct. So if you go to, of course, Facebook or go to the YouTube channel, if you go to, let me think. Oh, hey, this is something that maybe wasn't working before and now is. Oh, isn't that interesting? The software in these companies, they're like pulling out all the stops and bringing in new features and stuff like that. And so you'll go on there one day and it's like, oh, what's this? Right? So, but anyway, thanks for checking in. And you're right. It's the one bad habit we all need to correct. And one of that is that we create the environment, we maintain the environment that produces the results. And we think we're trying to produce the results, but what we're doing is creating and maintaining the environment, and that environment produces the results. To make a long story short, I have this story that I call How Long Does It Take to Make Ice? And basically the story goes, Joe is thirsty, it's a hot day, he wants some ice for a glass of water. So he doesn't know how to do it. But he's seen his buddy Bill do it. And he sees Bill, he puts water in this tray and puts it in the freezer, and then he gets ice. So he takes a tray, he puts water in it, he puts it in the freezer, he closes the door, he opens the freezer, and he goes, well, there's no ice. What am I doing wrong? There's no ice. So he changes the water, puts the water in the tray, put it in the freezer, close the door, open the door, no ice. Like, what the hell? What am I doing wrong? But what he doesn't realize is it's his job to put the water in the tray, put the tray in the freezer door, and leave the freezer door closed. And as he maintains that, ice is a natural byproduct of maintaining that environment. And so one of the things that often gets us into dragging our butt across the carpet is we've got these victories, and we see them, this is really good. And then what happens is we start to look at the effect. We start to look at the ice. So Bill manages to get ice. So he takes the ice tray out. And he says, oh, look at this ice. I want more of this ice. And so he's looking at the ice because he wants more of the ice. And he needs more of the ice. And he wants more of the ice. And he likes the ice. But the freezer door is open. And the other ice cube tray in there, eventually it's going to start to melt. Now, why is that happening? Because he's not maintaining the environment. And this is one of the things that trip us up when our manifestations start to take form, is you look at the manifestation, you go, oh, that is the coolest thing, I want more of that. And it takes your awareness away from maintaining the environment produced it in the first place. So when you start to see ice, when you start to see those victories, resist the urge to go, oh, thank you. Resist the urge to go, and this is Facebook user. So I think this is, so it's just weird stuff. So I think there's a button you need to click, but it's no big deal. So I see who you are. So it just says Facebook user. So thank you, Facebook user. But it is. The ice tray it's a really good metaphor. It's very, very accurate. Your job is to put the water in the tray, put the tray in the freezer, close the door, and keep the door closed. You don't make ice. You create and maintain the environment that then produces a natural byproduct of that, which is ice. And I think this is the thing, and I'll wrap up with this. Whether you're wind beneath your wings, or whether you're dragging your butt across the floor and you got your ugly stick out and you're whacking yourself over the head, right? Wind beneath your wings, celebrate every victory, because victories are scalable. There are no small victories. Celebrate the hell out of it. When you're dragging your butt across the floor, cut yourself a whole lot of slack. It's your shadows and what you do with them that give you depth. And depth is where the longevity comes from. That's just interesting. I just heard that. You get the artists that they're the kind of the good old one shot. Oh, hey, Corey, how you doing? My boom for the mic is right there. So, wow, it's great to hear from you, Corey. That is so cool. Thanks for shouting that in the comments. The ones that they're the one-shot wonders, and they go, whew, but there's no depth to them, so they don't last. It's your shadows that give you longevity. It's what you do with those shadows that give you longevity. So make friends with them, right? And put your damn ugly stick away, because you're doing a hell of a lot better when you think. You're doing a hell of a lot. Where's my ups? You're doing a hell of a lot better than you think. And just in both cases, keep your eye on the prize. When I talk about step 3 in the manifesting process, which is managing resistances, and I talk about the voices in your head, there's 4 major voices. There's different kind of strategies, but the last step in every one is to refocus on what you want. Refocus on where you want to go. Refocus on this, no matter, and sometimes it's easier than the others. I totally get this, but refocus on where you're going, because source doesn't look backwards. Source only looks forward. So if you're looking forward, then that would make sense to think that you're now aligning with source. So if there's stuff that needs to be cleaned up, source will bring it to you. Don't worry about it, right? Trust me, source will bring it to you. It's all good. But that's in the process of going forward. All right. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Like I said, I haven't done a Facebook Live for a while, but I thought, well, what the heck? I'll just kind of hop on and shout out to all you folks. I'm just trying to think of anything else. No, I think that's it. If you have any ideas for topics for the mini workshops, the $7.77 video workshops that I'm starting today, shout out in the comments or shoot me a message or stuff like that. Let's see what else. YouTube channel, been doing a lot of work on the YouTube channel. If you go to, where's my, just go here. Go to healingcenter.ca and you'll be able to click on the link to the YouTube channel. So that's all you'll have to do. So that's kind of the depository. Anyway, that's where the sort of the higher quality videos are and things like that. And checked out. I think that's all my stories. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Thanks for saying hi. Share. We're all in this together. See you on the web.